Hi, I'm Stuart from the Norfolk Honey Company and welcome back to our Maisemore Apiaries sponsored series of videos for 2017. Today we're going to take a good look at the commercial poly hives that we've been supplied and check out all the features on them prior to finally putting them in position and getting some bees into them. I'll put all the information regarding all of the products that we've got here in the description below, as well as links through to Maisemore Apiaries website online, which is bees-online.co.uk. You'll notice that the hive today is on a hive stand. The hive stand has also been supplied by Maisemore Apiaries, and I'm very grateful to them for all of the equipment that they've supplied us. And I think if we just start with the stand first, it will take two of these full-size hives. So I'm just going to stand up and walk you around the stand first of all. It's a really solid stand. I think it's 2x4, but you'll know from previous videos that I'm not very good at woodwork or construction generally. So for people like me, it's really useful to have somebody that can make these stands for us. What I do like about the stand is that it has legs that collapse, so it's got folding legs, so you can fold these down completely and it sits quite nicely and quite flat, so that if you want to move them around you can stack these up in the back of the truck and they don't take up quite so much room as the normal stands that I've made, which just have to be kind of stacked on top of each other. The legs are angled out, which is really good, and if I just pop it up, you have to just push those legs out and make sure that they're angled out nice and securely. But it's a really strong construction, and I'm sure it's going to take a couple of these hives really well. And I'll put all the information to it down in the description below. So let's get the hive back up and we'll take a look at that. And if the stand can take my weight, then it can probably take the weight of a couple of hives that are stacked up with supers. As I said earlier, this is a commercial poly hive, and we'll just take it apart. It comes with the strap, which is quite a nice feature because being polystyrene, it's a lightweight construction, and if you have a particularly open site and it's quite windy, then it's quite likely that the roof could get lifted, and you don't really want to be putting bricks on top of these hives. As with the nuke box that we looked at last week, the polystyrene does mark quite easily, and so it's nice to be able to take care of it and strap it all down with a good quality strap, which that is. When you receive the hive, it will be unpainted, so you need to paint it, and we've used the same smooth masonry paint on these hives as we have on the nucleus colonies. So the roof has the Maisemore details on the top, so it's got their telephone number and their web address. And I'm just going to stand up and we'll just unload some of this equipment. So the hives were supplied to us with two supers. You get a polycarbonate chrome board or cover board, and that goes just on the top, but we'll show you that in a moment. It comes with a plastic queen excluder, which is 500 by 500 mils, and we've also got these Miller feeders, and exactly the same principle as with the nuke box. You have a sliding block which fits into a couple of channels on either side and slides down and leaves a gap underneath for the sugar syrup to flow underneath. It also comes with a clear perspex cover board that goes across the feeder, and that prevents the bees from coming up and getting into the sugar syrup and drowning. One of the questions that I have been asked about the feeders that I'm just waiting on an answer for is whether you should paint the inside of the feeders and whether the chemicals in the polystyrene will leach into the sugar syrup. So we're going to find that out, but in the meantime I've left it unpainted, but it might be something that we'll have to do at some point before we use the feeder. And then we've got the brood box. Instead of the traditional wooden box, which has a single handhold space cut into the side, these are moulded in a similar way to a national hive, in that they have this recess and then the rainwater drip at the front. I tend to use my hives with the frames in the cold way, so this would be the front face for me, but if you were using it in the warm way, then you'd have it turned to the side, and in this instance you just have the flat panel to the side of the polystyrene hive. So we've got this loaded with frames, so I'll just take those frames out and then we can show you the inside. The brood box itself comes with a pre-formed frame runner, so you don't need to add any additional frame runners to it. I have heard that if you're heavy-handed then these can snap and become damaged, but it's just a case of taking care, as with all of the equipment, whether it's wood or polystyrene. So one of the things that we tend to do is to just run a little bit of Vaseline along the frame runner, and that should help the frames to slide quite nicely. And again, the inside we're leaving untreated, but I'm going to find out whether that's exactly as it should be or whether we need to coat the inside with anything, but I think we leave it untreated. So that's the brood box itself. It comes with a yellow plastic entrance block, and then the floor is an open mesh floor, and again some of the features that I do like about it are the same as with the Nuke box. The open mesh floor metal section is screwed in, so the screws can be removed and we can take this metal section away and clean it, and if we need to flame it, we can flame it. It has the insert at the back here, and unlike a lot of floors, this is a really solid construction. It's that polycarbonate corrugated sheeting, and that fits in at the back and is a really heavy duty bottom board, rather than some of the other floors that I've used which have a very thin sheet in it. So that's going to be a really useful floor to have. And on the back you can see, if I turn it upside down, you can see that it slides in quite nicely. There's plenty of room there for it, and then the entrance block fits into the space just like so. And if I then construct it as if we were putting it together for the first time, the brood box goes on top of the floor, and so we've got 12 frames that fit in quite nicely here. Whether I'll keep 12 frames or whether I'll remove one and just go with a dummy board at the end, we'll wait to see, but I suspect I'll probably use a dummy board because I don't want to be prizing against the polystyrene. I'd rather have a dummy board, which makes it easier to take that first frame out. And then if we're not using the feeder, we have the queen excluder, which fits perfectly on top. So the footprint of the actual box is 500 millimeters square, so that's larger than a standard commercial, which is around 465 millimeters square. But we've also got the moulded landing board built into the floor, which extends it probably a further 8 to 10 centimetres, I guess. And in terms of transporting the hive, we did find that that block at the front meant we had to just manoeuvre them slightly differently on the back of the pickup, but we got all 12 of the hives on the back of the pickup, which was great. And then we've got these cutaway sections at the side, which are for the straps. So the strap comes through here and up and over, which is really useful to have. And then we have the polycarbonate board to go on top. So in terms of features that I'm not certain of and that I need to try out are the fact that both the Queen excluder and this chrome board, cover board material sit flush onto the frames, and I always prefer to have a bee space beneath both the Queen excluder and the chrome board, because the bees are going to propolis this down and it might make it difficult to remove it. So we're going to try it with them and see how that works, but it might be that we'll need to swap that around. And so we'll just pop these back together, and then on the roof we've also got a recess for the strap to go across as well, so that all fits together really nicely. That fits on top really well, so that's going to be, I guess, about an additional 15 or 20 millimeters either side, so you need to allow for that space if you're moving them around. And then the straps are a basic construction. There's plenty of room so that you can get supers on top as well, and you just feed the strap through the clamp mechanism and then just pull it in tight. And I always like to have the strap down at the side so that if we are standing anything on top, then it's not going to damage the polystyrene. So that's the commercial poly hive. We're getting ever closer to getting some bees in them, which will probably happen over the next week to 10 days. I need to give them another coat of paint. The masonry paint that we used went on quite well, but one coat I don't think is enough, so we're going to give them 2 coats, and better to do that now than to wait until we've got bees in them. As soon as I get some answers to the questions that I've got, I'll produce another video with those answers, and hopefully we can then put these hives to a full test. I had originally intended to put all of the poly hives in one location, but somebody made a good observation that we should use some wooden hives to do a fair comparison. So what I'm going to do is, we've got 12 of these hives that have been supplied by Maisemore Apiaries, so we're going to have 6 of these poly hives here with another 6 wooden hives, and then we'll take the remaining 6 poly hives over to another apiary and we'll set those up with some wooden hives to do a fair comparison and test them. And again, as with the poly nukes, it's going to be really interesting to see how the bees get on inside of these hives and whether the polystyrene insulation properties hinder the bees or help the bees, and we'll report back as we go. So we're going to continue with weekly videos, and the next set of videos will be setting up the hives and getting some bees into them. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do consider subscribing, and if you do subscribe, hit that little bell symbol and that will then alert you with an email to all of the new videos that we're uploading. We've also got our Facebook group for beginner beekeepers, which is Stuart's Beekeeping Basics, and also check us out on Twitter and Instagram. And finally, if you haven't yet seen our Patreon page, that's where our videos are uploaded as we produce them, and you can help support us in producing lots more videos. I'll put all the information in the description below, but for now, thanks for watching.